Hi, my name's Jane Desotelle. I'm in Plattsburgh, New York right now, but I've spent most of my adult life, in Chateaugay, New York. And Chateaugay was where I learned to make wreaths. I had a neighbor in Chateaugay who had a tree farm, balsam fir tree farm. And balsam fir is my preferred evergreen to use. It has kind of long needles, not as long as pine, but long for a lot of evergreens. And it's soft. And if you notice, the back is a much lighter color. And if you look really close, there's like a vertical line in the middle of each needle. They're very pliable. They're easy on the hands. Spruce is not easy on the hands. They're like little needles. They're round, they're not flat, and they poke you. And some spruce poke more than others, but by the time you get done handling a lot of brush for a wreath, you'll never want to use spruce again. And also, once spruce gets dry, the needles just fall right off. And that does not happen with balsam. So balsam also smells great. It just smells wonderful. So this is what balsam fir is like. You can also use cedar. If you're in towns and cities a lot of people have cedar hedges. It's very flat. See how flat that is? This has a little more depth to it when you go to be making a wreath. It's going to take more of this to make a wreath than this because it's got more depth. But it does have a different shade of green. And sometimes you can mix these things. Pine needles, there's different kinds of pines. This is a very soft pine, a white pine. And they're easy to use. And they look nice mixed in with these two. But it will turn brown first. So it doesn't last quite as long. This is hemlock. Hemlock can look a lot like the balsam, but you notice the needles are shorter. And when it's making the cones are hanging down, little tiny cones hanging down. Whereas balsam fir has cones way up at the top of the tree, and they stand upright about like this. So that's how you can tell these two apart. You don't want to use hemlock. These needles will fall right off as well, and they don't smell as nice as the balsam fir. Also, you might find some juniper. And if you're lucky, you'll find juniper with blue berries on it. And they can be nice for making a wreath if you want blue on your wreath. Some people do. But they can also, it's again another little different shade of green. So it can be mixed in if you want. But my preference is the balsam fir, and that's what we're going to use. So when I make a wreath, you need a base. So I use these rings mostly. For beginners, if you have a double ring, that's great. It's a little easier to use. This is the year of COVID, 2020. And a lot of us are shut down or don't want to go into stores too much. A lot of the craft stores have been closed and then opened. And any week now they could be closed again because they're not considered essential. If you're stuck at home, here's what you can do. Take a coat hanger, wire coat hanger, and bend it into a circle shape. When I do use this though, it's not going to be as strong a metal as this. It doesn't quite hold the shape as much. So what I'll do is I'll take a branch of balsam after I've clipped all this off, and I will wrap it around with wire. And that'll strengthen this and give it more support. And it'll also be easier for you to tie your bundles on with the wire. If you're using a big wreath, if you want to do a big wreath, do not use single wire. Use double wire, because by the time you get all this brush on here, it's going to be so heavy, your circle will turn into an oval in just about a week. And so it won't keep that nice circle shape that you want. To begin with, the first thing you have to do when you've collected your balsam is you have to snip it into smaller pieces. That's a nice piece there. I'll cut right there. And then I'll work my way down. I can use this. Just snip all these pieces off. Things like this, I can snip and put in a different box or basket. Save for later. I don't waste anything. Little pieces like this, I'll dry them, and then I'll put them in a little piece of cloth and make a little balsam bag that'll smell nice. And that makes a nice little gift too. So, this is something your kids can do. Great for kids. And the snipping is a good job for kids. These hardware scissors work great. Wire on something hard and firm like this, or on a spool, is best. Because you'll see later as you're going to be working it, you need something to pull. So you want it wrapped around on something. If you're recycling your wreath from last year, you can undo the wire, take off all your balsam. You can save that wire, but wrap it around something that's really sturdy. And you can use it next year to make a wreath for next year. So when I start off, I'm going to leave a long piece sticking out here because I'll need that later. And I'll crisscross over and have it hold tight. So there. And I like the crimped ring instead of a smooth because it helps hold the wire in place. It doesn't slide back and forth. Okay. Now my very first bunch, I am going to make it a little extra long because when I put my last bunch on, it will definitely make it a lot easier for me. These are things you learn the hard way sometimes, so I'm going to help you out by giving you a little trick of the trade here. Kind of angle some going in, some going out, and you want some going straight up. So I lay this on here, keep this out of my way, and I will wrap around here, pull tight, wrap around again, pull tight, come down a little bit, wrap around again, pull tight. And there's one bunch. So as you see, there's going to be quite a few bunches to go. Okay, so now we're going to put on our second bunch. You want to try and keep your bunches the same size so it'll look good when you get done. Again, wrap, pull tight each time you wrap. And sometimes if you think it needs it, you can give it a fourth wrap. And your hands will get a little sticky when you do this because there's resin. The essential oils that smell so nice are in here. You'll have good smelling hands, but they'll get darker later on. When I'm making a lot of wreaths, I would use a product called Bag Balm on my hands, and I would put it on in the morning before I started. And that would kind of make a protective coating on my hands. And not only does it help heal any cuts, you know, wire sticking, needles sticking, it helps heal your hands. It also helps protect them from the resin, makes it easier to wash it off later. Looking for something wrong over here. There. So we're getting there. Sometimes when you're part of the way through, when I first started making them, I'm going, oh no, this is never going to work. It looks, I'm off, I'm not going to be a circle, it's not going to happen. But it somehow does. And you see you'll even get different shades of green just using balsam. Because it depends on the tree, how old it is, the nutrition in the soil, how much sun, how much shade it gets. It'll change quite a bit from a lighter green to a more bluish green. So this is why I left this first bunch a little extra long, because I can lift it up and get underneath it easier. I think I'm going to do another small bunch in there. This is the hardest bunch to do because you got to get the bunch on top out of the way. So I just use my thumb to push it up out of the way. So I'm left-handed. You may want to do this completely different. Before I tie this off, I will take some of the first bunch that I put on, a couple of branches, lay that down, and then do a wrap around. That connects these two bunches together. So I'll just maybe do that twice. Yeah, now I'm going to turn the whole thing over and hopefully find the wire that I left. Here it is. green wire on green. So I'm going to twist these two together. Nice and tight. Okay, and these scissors again, not only do they snip brush, they snip wire. They're so handy. And I will twist these so I will leave a loop so you can hang it on a hook. And you can do a little pruning inside if you want to open this up a little bit. You can always do a little trimming. I don't like to trim on the outside too much unless something's really sticking out, but I do like to have a little bit of openness in the middle here. So there. Ta-da! You've made a wreath. Not that hard, just takes some time. Now we're going to decorate. Well, I'll tell you, when I first began, it was harder to learn how to tie a bow than it was to make the wreath. But if you want to tie your own bow, this is great. I'm a do-it-yourself person. So this wire is about 18 inches long. I use it for tying my bows and also for wiring pine cones. This is a red pine cone. I like to use this. Those of you who've bought my wreaths before, you know my bows are a little different than others. So right around this back part, I'll stick this wire in here and work it down towards the center, and then give it a good twist. And I got these nice long threads here. Now to begin with, I recommend using ribbon that has a wire edge on it. It's much easier to work with your hands. Okay, this is a small wreath. So small wreaths, I go from here to my elbow. If I'm doing a middle wreath, medium-sized wreath, I go to here. If I'm making a large wreath, I go to my shoulder. That's how I measure. I don't have to use my yardstick all the time anymore. But your tails, you'll see. This is going to be the middle of your bow, so that would be about here. So that's where your tail's going to be. So I pinch right here, then I make a loop. Right, that long, what can I say? And my hands, I have short fingers, but anyway, that's what works for me. And then I pinch again. Then I bring this over, make another loop, pinch. Bring this over, make another loop, pinch. Again, bring this over, and pinch. I like the plaids. I don't know, to me, they're like more country style. If you like the country style, plaids are really nice. So odd numbers are usually good when you're decorating. I will take this and put it right in the center. Hold the ribbon tight right next to it and give it a twist. Twist it a couple of times. There. Now bring this down. And the nice thing about the wire edge, it's very forgiving. You can move it around. And even, this ribbon was actually used last year. And I just took it off, gave it a rinse, dried it, and it's good to go for this year. So, recycling, it's a good thing. So I have these two wires coming out the back. So I find the top of my wreath. So one wire goes in the center, one comes out over the top, right where your loop is going to be. And I pull it tight back here. Couple twist. And then these long pieces, I usually just kind of fold them and tuck them in. And there, and if you want just a bow, that's fine. But if you want some other decorations, you can do all sorts of things. There's different kinds of pine cones. There's the white pine, which has a lot of resin on it. You see, this is natural. This is the way I found it. It almost looks like it's been frosted, like these. Some people bring wreaths, not ones I made, and they're decorated with paint. So you can paint them if you want to give it that frosted look, or you can just do the natural look. You can spray them gold if you want, or silver. It's all sorts of things you can do. Most of my medium and large wreaths, I've used these Austrian pine cones. Austrian pine grows up here. I've seen it from zone 3 to zone 6. And has a nice shape. It's strong, and it's easy to get the wire in, just like the red pine. It's just bigger, and it's soft on the hands. There's other pine cones that look like this, and they got little barbs back here. You don't want to mess with those because they will just rip your hands apart. It's not comfortable at all. I don't just do pine cones. You can. I mean, it's your wreath. You can do anything you want. But the way I've done it in the past, those of you who are familiar with me, sometimes I take a little piece of cedar and a little piece of baby's breath. This is the old-fashioned baby's breath, small single petals, and a bunch of high bush cranberries. High bush cranberries is a native shrub to the area. So I got this little thing going on. Maybe I'll add a little more cedar, or I could add a little bunch of juniper. Kind of fill in there. This is kind of big for this wreath, I think. That's good. Something a little smaller. So I put this in the front, one wire on one side, one wire on the other, and give it a twist. And then I twist it 3 or 4 times. There we go. And then I'll do one on the bottom. And this one will go down at the bottom. So I grabbed 3 or 4 branches here. It's important on the bottom one, and it's important on where the boughs go up, to make sure you have more than just it tacked onto one piece, because this wreath is going to be hanging like this, and if this isn't tied to more than just one branch, it can flop down sometimes. So there. Now, leftovers. There's no reason to waste this. So you can dry it and make little gifts like this, balsam pillows. Those of you who have bought wreaths from me before, this is a card I've always attached to it. And I always explain how to make your balsam pillows. You want to dry the balsam before you put them in material, because it'll mold if it's in there too tight. And you can make a tea out of the needles. It's good for colds and coughs, asthma, your lungs in general, heart disease. And the twigs are also, the tea of twigs is a mild laxative. And a lot of people use them in their saunas and sweat baths. So they smell so nice. So I don't waste any of it.